push on.
What was that?
We're hearing that. Honestly, you couldn't write it. Charlotte Daly on MailSport Boxing. I'm joined by Frank Smith. How are you?
I'm good. Well, it was sunny a minute ago. Now it looks like it might rain. So.
Yeah, I know. I am thinking it is going to rain.
Yeah,
but we'll get through
We'll
this.
get through it.
First of all, got to start by talking about Dalton Smiths' performance. What a fight. What a win for him.
Unbelievable. Look, spectacular performance. And, a lot of people thought it was a step too far for Dalton Smith going in there against Zepeda. He had a long time out the ring as well. And, you've seen many fighters in the past who wouldn't step into a fight like that off the back of time out the ring. And it was a real step up in levels and an unbelievable night. And it felt like the old days we've had in Sheffield with the likes of Kell Brook. We've created great nights in Sheffield, and it's Sheffield's a place where people love to get behind their boxing, and I think we're seeing that now with Dalton Smith, and we'll continue to grow and build with momentum of finishes like that, because at the end of the day it's about entertainment, and with finishes like that you're going to entertain it. So great night for Dalton Smith, great night for Sheffield boxing, and many more to come.
You said there about the fact that it was a step up, and it was. A lot of people thought he'd be better off going in against like Pettersson or someone like that instead. Obviously, you guys were very confident beforehand that this was the right fight, but was there ever a moment where you thought or had spoken to him and kind of said, right, maybe we should go for something else and then come back to a fight like this, or was he always set on it?
No, always set. And as I say, with the time he had out the ring, you wouldn't have been surprised if you would have said those type of level of opponents you mentioned there. But he knows his levels. His dad, Grant, knows where he's at and knows what he can do. And I think Dalton Smith's a fighter that you're going to see as he steps up in levels, you're going to see better and better performances from him. So yeah, look, it was a great night, and what felt like the beginning, although 16 fights in or 15 fights in, it felt like the beginning of something special. And there's going to be big nights to come as well, and we look forward to taking big nights to Sheffield and to the stadium.
And obviously there was a lot of hype around Dalton, like going into the fight and just in general. Do you think that performance and to be able to stop him in that fashion, because I think if it was round 1 or 2, people would have said that Zepeda was kind of past his best or whatnot, but the fact that he took him to 5 rounds and then finished him in the fashion that he did, do you think that shows that the hype is real around Dalton Smith at the moment?
100%. That first round they went out there, he was really feeling it out, and then from there he really dominated the fight. He looked amazing the whole way throughout that fight, and what a finish. People haven't done that to Zepeda. No one's done that to Zepeda before. But he showed his levels by going in there and delivering a performance like that. He didn't look like he was struggling at any point, but you always knew with Zepeda when he was throwing those punches, there was danger there. And that was always the concern, that was always the worry. It was a huge level up from where he'd been before. But as I say, when you believe in yourself, when you've got a team around you that believe in you and make the right decisions, and look, his dad is his trainer, he's also his father, but he's going to make the best decisions for his career, and they always believed this was the right fight, and that's why we had confidence in it.
And in terms of what's next for him, obviously he's spoken a lot about Adam. It's a fight that he really wants. He has called him out. What's your thoughts on it all? Because obviously Boxer have said it's not the fight that they want at the moment. What have they said to you from their end?
A lot of mixed messages, really. I met Ben Shalom 4 weeks ago. I then said to him a week after that, what are you doing? He said, it's not the fight for Adam Asim next. I said, no problem. They're representing their fighter. I agree. If we were representing Adam Asim, would it be the right fight for Adam Asim next? Probably not. But the way they've handled it is all wrong. They wanted Dalton Smith to go in there and lose on Saturday night, because then they wanted to come out and then they wouldn't have to deal with anything. Unfortunately for them, he went in there and delivered a fight the way he did, and now they're in an even worse position. I messaged Ben Shalom this morning. I said, what are you doing? He said, I'll know in 24 hours. So 3 weeks ago they were pulling him out, wasn't a fight for him. Then they ignored it for 3 weeks. Then they said, well, we wanted to wait and see what happened with the fight, and unfortunately it hasn't gone their way. So I don't know, I'm hopeful. It's a massive fight. People want to see big domestic fights. We want to see big domestic fights, but at the same time we're not going to let it hold up Dalton Smith's career. Our job is to deliver for Dalton Smith.
And if Adam isn't on the table, then what will be next for Dalton? Where will he go from here?
I think we want to continue to see step-ups. A big part of it depends on the WBC's rankings. He won the WBC silver title on Saturday. He could arguably go into the top 3 or 4 of those rankings, even higher maybe. If the belt was to become vacant at any point, the Sandor Martin fight's a fight there to be made. But I think, let's see, he'll want to keep growing and building. He doesn't want to step back in levels. I think the Adam Asim fight would be a step back in levels, but it would be a massive fight. But let's see how that plays out over the coming days. Then we can decide from there. There's big fights to be made. We got a lot of the 140s. in and around. So, but I know from speaking to him, he wants the biggest fights possible.
Talking of big fights to be made, we've got the 5v5 card coming up. It is all over the news at the moment because obviously the weights have been picked. First of all, what is the pressure like with this? Because Matchroom Queensberry, bragging rights, whoever loses is never going to hear the end of it.
I know, but that's why we're so focused on winning. People, we're going to pick the best fighters, they're going to pick the best fighters, and it brings back a bit of that old spite from before. Maybe we won't be friendly for the next 8-12 weeks, but there's big fights to be made for that card, and we believe we're going to go in there and get the win. But it's going to be a great night of boxing, and you've already seen the interaction, the traction off the back of just the announcement of weights. This is going to be huge, and it's something that people have looked forward to for a long time.
Well, Frank Warren's already talking about giving his fighters bonuses for winning because he wants to incentivise them even more to win. Have Matchroom got anything up their sleeve to try and incentivise your fighters to really push on?
What was that? Sorry, there was a big splash in the background.
And now comes the sun.
Our focus. Look, the fighters want to win. The fight without even forget the matchroom piece. The fighters want to win themselves. They've got it's an important. All of the people we're going to put in there. It's an important part of their career. So they're going to go in there and want to give it their all. The Matchroom Queensberry part is probably a secondary part for them in reality.
Yeah, and obviously with all the Saudi cards, we've seen unbelievable trailers and build-ups and just surprises left, right, and centre. For the trailer, are we going to see you, Eddie, Frank, all going like head to head in some epic sort of movie setting?
I hope so. I think there'll be something massive. I don't think I'm involved though, although I would love to have been involved, like delivering a tea or something. I think that's an opportunity missed. I've got to be honest with you.
Well, now you've said it, they might see it and be like, he's onto
well, they need to put him in there delivering tea and coffee. It's all going off out here though. We've got ambulances, we got rain, everything. No, but I think hopefully they see this and they say we need a T-boy in this, whatever movie they choose to produce for this one. I'm not sure how someone will be able to come up with a part for me.
We're hearing as well at the press conference there's going to be wild things like hoods or masks, costumes, it could be anything. Is there any truth to that?
I don't know. It's exciting though.
Yeah,
let's see.
People talking.
Look, the one thing we've seen with all of these Saudi events is they get people talking, their promos get people talking, everything around it, and that's what we love to see. And His Excellency is a huge fan of boxing, and he wants to keep building the sport of boxing, and this is all a big part of it.
Talking about Saudi for a second, because obviously you're completely across it whenever organising these fight cards. What is it like dealing with the Saudis in it? Because obviously, just the Day of Reckoning card, for example, that got put together so quickly that it was almost, we were hearing rumours about it thinking it's not going to happen because it's literally a couple of weeks away. How does it all happen? What goes on behind the scenes?
That was it was turned around in days, and when they want to do something, when you start working on it, it gets done, and everything they say they do, they deliver upon. And that's all you can ask for. So they want the biggest nights in the sport, and I think we've built a great relationship now. Especially, and let's open the relationship with George and Frank further. Look, it's very positive, and it's good for the sport of boxing because it means big nights are happening, and it really removes a lot of the mess. A lot of the mess of like egos and who gets there, who walks, who does this. That's what's great for the sport, because for too long egos have probably got in the way, and I think this has been a big part of why they're not now. Yeah,
and we're hearing that. Honestly, you couldn't write it.
This is going well.
Yeah, this is our first interview together.
We thought it looked like a sunny day in London, but look at it. Yeah.
Well, last couple of questions before we actually get rained on or dripped on.
Yeah.
We're hearing that some of the Saudi cards, part of Riyadh season, is going to come to London. Yeah. Is that going to happen? Riyadh season in London?
Look, I saw the same interview as you where His Excellency mentioned it. It'll be massive.
Yeah.
To do a huge event back in London. Look, I'm working in boxing, and for boxing fans, it's great that big fights are happening. Wherever they take place in the world, we want to see the biggest fights possible. And Saudi's been great for that. I think to deliver, if they want to look at delivering huge fights in London, would be massive for the sport, because we all know the fan base for boxing in the UK is huge, and a night at Wembley would be something we'll never forget, I'm sure.
And final question, just on AJ, obviously what a performance against Francis Ngannou. He's obviously on a great run of form at the moment. Why do you think that is? Do you think it's literally from the link up with Ben Davison that's what's fine-tuned him and got him back into this form?
I think it's a whole host of things. I think momentum's been key for him. You know, when you look back to when he won the world title, it was just his 15th or 16th fight. You know, he moved very quickly from there, and he didn't have the regular fights. He was boxing maybe twice a year, and he didn't have all that time to grow, develop as a fighter, and he's probably doing that at the latter part of his career. And I think you're seeing the best of Anthony Joshua now. I think you're seeing that spite in him. You know, in both of those fights, he's gone out there, or both the Saudi fights, he's gone out there from the first round and looked to close the show, and that's what we loved back in the day. You know, but at the same time, boxing's very fickle. You know, he lost against Alexander Usyk, who is probably in the top 1, 2, 3 pound for pound fighters in the world. What he's done at cruiserweight, what he's done at heavyweight, he's a special fighter. You know, 300 odd amateur fights, and you know, it's great because people sit there and they go, "Oh, he's finished now." It's like, what, he lost against Alexander Usyk, you know, and in the second fight, arguably was much improved, and you know, but that's why boxing's great, because fans will always have those opinions. But I think he's in the form of his life. I think the Ben Davison link up, I think the confidence there is key, and I think the 4 fights in 11 months has been key as well, you know, for any fighter.